wasn't really going to be very forthcoming because when I contacted Dawn Jackson the first time
Yeah.
and just asked her what the lab, well, she could have found out what the lab is.
Yeah, yeah.
But she never did. And then at one point, I asked her for an MSDS sheet for CA. Well, I had found one online. The one she
Okay.
sent me was outdated. So I wound up sending her the one I found online. So, you know, you kind of get a sense.
Was there different data in the outdated one?
I know they weren't the same, and the one I had was more current. I don't know exactly.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
why.
So even basic information. You
Yeah,
can
they
get
were
out of them.
elusive.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's the fact that she didn't even give you the name of the firm says something. Who's
And she
doing
could have
testing.
found it.
Yeah. We were talking about that. I want to, while I have it in my mind, because we were talking about the EPA process,
Mhm.
and particularly the, I don't know why.
Science Advisory Board?
Well, no, before that, the
Eco?
stewardship.
Yeah.
The
okay.
stewardship agreement. I don't know why that term always evades me, but
Mhm.
and that it seemed to come out of nowhere. Do you remember anything more about that? It was at a plenary session that it was
I believe
announced?
it was.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it was a plenary session.
Okay.
And I think it may have been the last plenary session.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if there's any reference to it in here or not, but it just sticks in my mind. We didn't know that there was, or I don't recall that there was one, but we're talking about the stewardship thing when we found out. I don't think we found out before that plenary session.
And was it just presented as this is going to happen, or was there any discussion about it?
No, it was just presented, this is going to happen, I think.
What did you have thoughts or feelings about the stewardship agreement as an approach to dealing with the phase out?
Yeah. I don't recall what my thoughts were.
Okay.
Maybe too little, too late, something like that.
Too late, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But okay, and you also mentioned, okay, there's something actually that I wanted to ask you about. According to your interrogatories, you advocated for the precautionary principle at some of these EPA meetings,
Mhm.
and I'm wondering where did you learn about the precautionary principle, and why did you feel it made sense to use this approach with a chemical like CA?
I don't know if I can answer that.
Okay, all right.
I mean, a lot of people don't know the phrase precautionary principle, but they know what's behind it. They just don't know it's called that.
Okay.
But every instinct, everything Little Hawking did just happened to fit.
Okay.
But the statement given to the EPA used the phrase
Okay.
because it's either the best or worst phrase to use. Because
Yes.
the courts don't necessarily grapple onto the precautionary
Okay.
principle in regulatory setting.
Okay.
But on the other hand, people do, it communicates to government entities and the public the policy difference.
Yeah.
That makes, that people certainly are allowed to embrace.
Okay. So in what context were you advocating for this, and what was the reaction to it?
Yeah, I don't recall the context.
The context was simply you were explaining what Little Hawking was trying to do, which is to protect the health, safety, and welfare, and if there was a doubt, protected health.
It doesn't the European Union use that? That's
Yeah.
what they operate by
Yeah.
in the European Union. But the United States doesn't.
No.
It's like after the fact, well, okay, use it, and then somebody else has to prove it's a problem, which is just the opposite of what they do over there.
Right, but I will say that many of our laws, if they're utilized the right way, do embrace the precautionary principle ideas. It's just that you wouldn't use that to explain that to a
Okay.
judge.
Yeah.
Like RCRA is purely prophylactic. The law
Okay.
is preventative
Okay,
and to protect health before, ideally, not before there's a negative impact. And that's everything Little Hocking was doing, was to protect public health. It was preventative, prophylactic, and therefore precautionary.
what kind of reaction did you get from the other people on the committee that you were speaking to, or the?
Yeah, I don't recall the
Okay.
reaction. Generally, it was cold.
Generally, it was cold,
Anything
okay.
that we said was kind of course, a lot of those people were DuPont people.
Okay,
But it also is in the public record, so anybody can go.
okay.
Right, Bob, didn't that go? in
I
the
think,
pub-
yeah, I think so.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, they were minutes kept of all those meetings.
okay,
Mary Dominiak was the EPA person that kind of kept the minutes and stuff, I think.
okay. So, and you brought up before the scientific advisory board, you were involved in some of the scientific advisory board meetings as well?
Yeah, we attended 3 scientific advisory board meetings. The first one, I think, we kind of just set in on. It was talk about the risk assessment, the PFOA risk assessment, whether it was carcinogenic or not. So we did just set in on that and just listen to, they just have experts come in. I don't know, I think Science Advisory Board is kind of a, excuse me, it's not the EPA, it's kind of a branch of the EPA
Yeah.
or an arm of the EPA where they bring the experts in and they debate, whether is it or is it not, or what the wording is going to be about it. So we just kind of monitored that one. And I think they wound up saying it was likely.
Mm-hmm,
Okay. The other one we attended was just, it's called a Report on the Environment. And I actually talked to them a little bit. Basically, I think the purpose of the report was to look ahead and see what chemicals of concern in the future they should be looking at. And we wanted to have them include PFOA as a chemical of concern. In the end, I'm not sure if they did or not.
okay,
I think the last one we attended was, let's see. Oh, it was they had a meeting on what they called the CCL3. Periodically, the EPA has to designate chemicals that, I forget the frequency, every so many years EPA comes up with a list of chemicals of concern, and they would, the CCL3 means contaminant candidate list,
okay,
and 3 designates like the 3rd round of it. You had CCL1 and 2, but there's certain intervals they have to identify chemicals they're going to have
It's
on a
like the-
nationwide basis
okay.
water companies look at.
Is this the same as the UCMR3?
It precedes the UCMR3.
Okay, okay,
UCMR3 designates, that's what people sample, that's what comes out to the water companies, you're going to sample for this.
okay,
And we were advocating, of course, that included on the CCL3 is, C8.
okay, interesting. And that's interesting to me because the UMCR3, I might be mixing it up, the letters, but
That's right.
that ended up being fairly significant, the fact that it was included in that, because
Hoosick Falls and some of those
everywhere,
places.
yeah, I mean, because